Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Transformers Beast Wars Masterpiece 41 DINOBOT, which is easily far and above my most anticipated figure of the year. And I'm going to put this out there right now, which I'm sure you guys probably already get just from looking at the proto images. It doesn't disappoint. There are, of course, some things we need to talk about, as there would be with any figure, especially a Transformer. You're not going to have every little detail exactly as you want it, but this figure comes pretty darn close. It's an incredibly good figure, and it's just really, really impressive. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands in beast mode. To the top of his back, about 15 centimeters. To the top of his head, closer to 21. And that's going to make him just about 6 and about 8¼ inches tall. And of course, we're going to do this in two parts. We're going to do the beast mode, and then I'll transform him off screen, and then we'll do the robot mode. If you watch me transform it, it would just waste an extra 10 or 15 minutes because this is a very, very complex transformation. You don't need me to tell you how to do it. It's in the directions. Now, as far as the figure goes, we do have a lot of accessories. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. We have the most important accessory, his sword, which is okay. It's not particularly good. It does fold up and go inside his tail if you want it to, but that does mean we have a hinge at the handle and a hinge in the blade. And then the blade part is chrome, but it's also pink. It was not pink in the show. I've just watched the show over again thanks to this figure, and it was definitely not pink. And you can even see on the box art and all of their images, the sword was not pink. Anyway, we do have a bunch of other accessories. So the next one is the golden disc, which is just incredibly well detailed for such a basic accessory. It's exactly what it should be, so I'm very pleased with that. And you do get a little display stand for that if you want. And then you also get a little clip so it can fit in his hand properly, because he doesn't really have proper fingers. He has little holes in his hand to hold things, so you have that. And then we have 4 different phases for robot mode. They're all different expressions, and they're all the same in terms of the eyes, except for one. One has clear eyes, and that is so that you can connect the other accessory, which is for his eye beam, his laser blast, and then when you switch the head on to have the green light, it will look like it does in the show. It's not the best effect, but it works well enough, so that's okay. And there's one thing worth noting on these heads, other than they're all incredibly well detailed and they all light up really nicely, they all have hinged jaws, so you can open his mouth. Of course, we do have this giant display stand, which is really incredibly ugly, but it does work very nicely, and it does have a clear diaper for robot mode and a clear diaper for beast mode. And then lastly, we have a little character card, which is nicely detailed. I don't know if people really collect those too much, but it is nice that they included it. So that covers it for accessories. None that are particularly relevant here, except there's one more accessory. I lied. His tail, which does of course turn into a spinning shield thingy. It's a blade, it's a shield, it does a little bit of whatever he wants it to do. The tail does turn into that. You'll see that in robot mode. It does work pretty nicely. Okay, so let's talk about the beast mode. It looks really good. I mean, people are unhappy that you can see a lot of the robot parts in the butt area. You know, obviously it'd be better if you couldn't see that stuff, but it still looks really damn good anywhere from the front. For the most part, it looks good. The hips are a little bit not great, but it looks really, really good overall. And I'll tell you what, this sacrifice right here is more than worth it, because the DINOBOT mode, the robot mode, is just incredible. And I'm so glad that they focused on that. And then we had to sacrifice a little bit in beast mode, because who buys these to display them in beast mode? Really? I don't think most people do. So I think that's okay. Now, as far as the tail goes, we have some articulation in it. Nothing crazy. There's just a hinge there, and then there's another 2 hinges right here. And that's it. You do get one sideways hinge, which of course is pretty ugly. But it does have some articulation, so I'll give him that. It's okay. You'll probably just leave it in that kind of pose, and that'll be that. Now, for the hips, you don't get any range out of the upper part. You just have this joint down here. And that's almost it. Technically, you have other pieces down here. So you have a swivel right here, then you have a knee right here. But thanks to the transformation, yeah, you don't really want to do that. There's not a whole lot you can do. You can tuck that back in a little bit, and it'll help. But you still end up with a little bit more kibble. So yeah, that's up to you, I guess. I mean, it's not too bad. It's fine. It's definitely, again, focused for robot mode, which I'm okay with. And then for the ankle, you get an ankle rocker, which is really nice. And then there's a hinge down here as well. So, I mean, it's technically all there. You can use this knee joint. It's fine. You just have to be aware you'll get a little bit extra kibble. The toe, the big toe in particular, does have the hinge. What's the best angle? There you go. There you go. You can see the little raptor toe there. And these technically have some articulation, but it's really just for the transformation. So that's it for the back leg. For the front legs, it's actually really well done. I guess they're not really legs on a dinosaur like this, are they? So you have a hinge and a ball peg. It's kind of tucked in there, but you have a hinge that allows the arm to go like this. Then you have a ball peg that's on a hinge that allows it to go across the chest, which is just so nice. I mean, it helps for the transformation too, but it's so nice because in beast mode, you can actually pose the arms pretty nicely. You get a bicep swivel, a joint at the elbow, and then another joint at the wrist, and then another joint at the hand. So it's pretty well done. It's going to be a little awkward when you want to rotate his arm around. You have to go backwards and then do that to have him hold something. But it doesn't look terrible. It'll do. It's okay. So I like that. It's pretty good. For the head, we have a swivel at the neck. We have a big hinge that lets the entire head move up and down, which is really nicely done. Then we have a secondary hinge on top of that, which is just for a little bit extra posability. So that's really cool. Then, of course, the mouth does opened up all the way, and the tongue is articulated. And the cool thing is, the teeth can either be recessed up top, so if he's not angry, they kind of just tuck in, or you can pull them down by opening up the lower jaw, and then you have the top teeth showing, which is really, really cool. And then another cool feature is for the eye, you can pop open the head and spin this around, spin it the correct way, and then you get the squinty eye, so that it looks like he's angry. Make sure you have it lined up. There you go. And then he's got the squinty eye. So he's either angry or whatever it is that you want to do with that. So I really like that they included that feature. Very, very nicely done. All around. Great articulation. I couldn't be happier really with this figure. I guess I could, because there's one issue. And you could say I just didn't transform it properly, but I've done it a few times to make sure, and I even checked their images. This piece right here, it's not a particularly adjustable piece. It's connected to a fairly static piece, and then this is also fairly static. So the fact that this doesn't really quite line up, I think it's just a molding issue. It's not a big deal. This one does a little bit better, but it doesn't snap together or anything right there. So that could be a little bit better. But if you look at a lot of their images, you can see a little bit of a separation there. So I'm guessing it's just a little bit of a tolerance issue. So no big deal. But there it is in beast mode. Very, very nicely done. I like it a whole lot, but I like it even more in robot mode. So let's go ahead and get it transformed and look at the part that everyone cares about. Okay, so we have him transformed, and he's big. He's really, really big. He's like a little bit over 9 inches tall, which makes him just about 22.5 centimeters. So he's got some serious size. I'll show you him up against some of the other Transformers in the photos at the end. So let's just go ahead and dive into this accessory, and I want to do this one on camera because it's kind of a pain in the ass, and it does tell you how to do it. You know, it tells you how to transform it on in the instructions, but it's still kind of a trick. So you'll see what I'm talking about. You want to go ahead and just split it open, split it down the middle like you would expect, and then you have this open, and that's fine. And you would have your sword in there if you want it in there. I wouldn't put it in there, but it can go in there. And now the trick that's kind of a pain in the ass is just to fold these pieces down. It's not completely obvious when you're just looking at the piece here, and like I said, the directions cover it, but it's still kind of a hassle. What you want to do is just kind of wiggle it and pull this piece up like that, and then you can just rotate it around. It's going to take a little bit of force the first time, maybe even a couple times after that, but eventually it'll just start to move a little bit more freely. And then there you go. That's all it is. It's like I said, it's really a basic thing, but it feels like you're going to break it. You know, you don't generally want to try to separate joints, but this is one that you're actually supposed to. And so that's the way it goes. And then you just peg it in, and you're good. So there's your shield slash sword slash helicopter slash whatever you want it to be. And it's pretty good. I mean, I'll take it. These hide pretty well. They're pretty seamless. Once you get it on display, you don't really notice these too much. So I like that. And then the cool thing about this is if you pop this guy out, you can spin it. But you can also, it's kind of a trick because there's not much to hold on to. But if you push it in, let's see, I have big fingers too. If you push it in, it does the helicopter thing. All right. How about that? This is one of the most expensive things I've purchased in a very long time, and it is without a doubt the most satisfying for the money. You just get so much for your money with this guy. It's pretty incredible. Okay, so let's set this aside. We don't need to look at this anymore. Let's look at the figure. And before we get into the figure itself, let's look at the light up eyes. And I'll try to get some photos of these at the end in some less harsh lighting, but I think this will probably work. Okay, so this is just the neutral head that comes on him. You just hit the button on the back of his head. Oh, there you go. Yeah, they light up pretty nicely. They don't look as bright in camera just because of the harsh lighting, but the red eyes light up really nicely. Let me get a better angle so you can see. And so you just hit the button, and just like Optimus, they end up going out on their own, so that's pretty cool. And then all of the different faces have the red eyes, except for the one where if you do this, and I'm going to show you like this now, and then I'll show you on the right head, then you hold it in again, they turn green. Now, you can't really tell on this one right now because the eyes are painted red, so the green light's shining through. So I'll show you like that. So you have a green LED in there. When you hold it in, it turns green. And so you have one head with clear eyes. So you can either leave it like this if you want, and that way they only light up when you want. If you wanted green, for instance, for like a photo or something, they work for red, of course, but then they also work for the green. So if you want just plain old green, you have that. But then you also have, like I mentioned, the laser blast accessory, which just kind of snaps onto his face. As you can see with the harsh lighting, it's kind of hard to tell, but the green doesn't really light up the clear part very well at all. It's kind of a bummer. It definitely looks better without the lights on, but how often are you looking at or displaying your figures without the lights on? So it would have been nice if this was tinted green as well, and then it just had the light up effect on the eyes to make it even more pronounced. But it's still cool that they included it. I like the green eyes. I think that's a nice option. I do wish we had one set of eyes where they're actually painted green, like the red ones, so that you do have that option if you wanted to pose it where it looks like he's getting ready to fire. Because right now, obviously, you can turn them green, but otherwise they're clear, so unless the lights are on, it's kind of useless. So that's kind of a bummer, but not the biggest deal in the world. So now we can talk about his robot mode, which is one of the most impressive Transformers things I have ever experienced. And you guys probably don't know this because I don't review a ton of Transformers anymore, but I have a pretty large Transformers collection, like a whole bunch, like multiple hundreds, I think. I haven't counted in a long time. I haven't looked at my spreadsheets, but I have a lot of Transformers. So when I say this is one of the best Transformers I've ever purchased, you can understand that it's probably pretty solid. And so what I'll do first is look around at the details. It's basically perfect. He's a little bit thick, I think, maybe if you look at it from the side because of the kibble back here. But there's really no kibble. I mean, that's it. It's just this backpack, and this part back here is what does it. So if you look at him from like a 3/4 view, it makes him look kind of girthy, but that's it, guys. That's it for the kibble. A little bit of Dino foot right there, and this being sticking out a little bit. It's basically a perfect rendition of Dinobot. It's so spot on. It's amazing to me that they nailed this. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that I paid what I paid for this figure, which is $250, and it's worth every penny. I have no doubt in my mind. It is just absolutely incredible. The details are fantastic. The head's perfect. Everything's perfect except for this damn pink sword. How are you going to have Dinobot with a pink sword? Oh my gosh, it's so pink. It is so pink, and there's a hinge in it. That's what... I could live with the hinge, but it's so damn pink. And I tried taking some cleaner to it to see if I could get the pink stuff off the top, because usually it's just plain old chrome with like colored on top. And I tried to get that off and I couldn't, so that's a bummer. Anyway, it's just, look at this, guys. I don't even want to go through the articulation. I just want to stare at it for a while and look at how awesome it is, because it's freaking Dinobot. Who would have thought when Beast Wars was out all those years ago that someday we would have a damn near perfect Dinobot figure? Okay, let's go ahead and run the articulation. So there's one kind of issue. His neck is a little thick. It's a little thick connected to his head, and then it's not like a big deal, but it's in some angles, if you don't do it quite right, he's gonna look like he has no neck at all. But mostly it's fine. But it's a ball peg, so you can move his head around pretty well, so that's fine. You can lift it up if you need to, but then you're gonna end up with some gapping. So there's that. Now the shoulders, you can rotate these orange pieces around however you need to if you want to help them to pose. But then you have full rotation like that. And these are independent, as I mentioned, so you can kind of adjust it however you need. We have a full hinge here. If you need to raise this up even more, you can. We have a full-on bicep swivel. We have a single-jointed elbow, which is the hinge right here. This one up here doesn't do anything. But it's just like in Beast Mode where I mentioned if you bend it too far, you end up start pulling things out, which is not the biggest deal, but you do end up starting to pull things out. So if you go too far, you can kind of tuck it back in. It's not terrible, especially in robot mode. It's definitely something you could live with, but it's worth mentioning that the elbow joint is kind of cumbersome. Just tuck that back in. Then we have a ball hinge, kind of, right here, which works really nicely. It doesn't rotate, though. Unless I'm going nuts, I couldn't get it to rotate. Does it rotate? Yeah, no, it doesn't rotate. So you just have the hinge, but then the hand does rotate on the outside of it, so that's really nice. And each of the fingers has the main knuckle and then another knuckle, so that's really nice. Lots of detail there. We have a full waist swivel. For the hips, we have a ratchet that goes out to the side. Unfortunately, due to the design, they don't go that far. But I don't think DINOBOT needs to do the splits anytime soon, so that's okay. You do get a thigh swivel out of this, but as you can see, the way this is notched, that's going to get in the way. So you can only really rotate the thigh once the leg is moved out to the side a little bit. And it's kind of loose, so that's not going to be the most practical thing. But you do get another rotation down here just above the knee. So that's really good. And then, of course, the full ratchet going all the way forward, which gives him plenty of range. And then it does go all the way back as well, so really good range. Then you have your knee joint. Be careful, though, if you just do this, you like grab it down here, you're going to kind of start to separate the transformation. So you want to grab it kind of like this. And then you have your knee joint, which is not the best knee joint in the world. I mean, you get decent range, but obviously it's kind of ugly. For a Transformer, I think it's fine. Even for most action figures these days, look at that. I mean, it's like a full-on action figure. Guys, this is incredible. It's a really, really nice figure. Ankle hinge. I guess some people have loose joints on the ankles. Mine aren't. These are pretty nice, so that's fine. Toe joint, no. Heel joint, no. When you're posing this guy, this is going to happen a lot. I wish those kind of snapped into place a little bit better, but you can just kind of push them back out. And then you have another ankle hinge for an ankle rocker. So it's like a full-on high-quality action figure that turns into a dinosaur and lights up and is DINOBOT. I don't know what more you could ask for other than a sword that isn't a pink sword. It's just, this figure is amazing, guys. It's absolutely 100% amazing. And people always ask, oh, is it going to go on your top 10 list? Most definitely. There is no way any of the figures that I know of that are coming out from now until the end of the year are going to knock this guy off the list. There's no way. And that's not just me being a DINOBOT fan. This is absolutely quality right here. This is great. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you click the thumbs up button if you liked the video. If you're not subscribed, we have new videos up almost every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.